just to face whatever it is you fear the most. And how are you going to do battle? You guys talk about the warrior path, just being ready for anything at all times. And it's like most of the time you don't even know what to expect. So how can you be ready for it? But just knowing that you're going to be able to go into battle, and then whatever comes out the other side, being proud of. So when you cross that finish line, just saying like, oh my God, that was the worst, but I did it. I'd love to see people talk about that more rather than, I had to choose my words carefully, rather than quit early. And sometimes DNFing and quitting is completely justified. I'm the last person that's going to judge, but most of the times I think people can just go to that next level of going to battle.
That was Billy Hafferty, plant-based endurance athlete, and this is the Yogi Triathlete Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. My name is Jess, and I am the host of this audio adventure where every week we bring to you people who are looking, finding, and living their purpose. And if you can believe this, we only have 2 more episodes banked from our Ride the High Vibe tour. But not to worry, the show is continuing as we have lots of awesome folks in the queue to share with you from our new locale in California. And for those of you who are new to the podcast, we're getting new listeners every week. I want to bring you up to speed on the Ride the High Vibe tour and what exactly that was, because we reference it several times during this interview. So in June of 2016, BJ, my husband and co-host, Clark, our golden retriever, and myself pulled out of the driveway of our dream home in Newport, Rhode Island with everything we owned tucked into our Honda Fit. We had just finished getting rid of almost everything we owned. And when I say everything, I am talking about family photos, handed down gems like holiday ornaments, and my grandmother's jewelry. Everything. We hit the road that day officially homeless with no plan other than to be in service of others and land in California. It was our primary intent to travel the country to raise awareness that living a more vibrant life is within reach for all. 6 months to the day, we landed in Carlsbad, California, in a tiny studio by the beach. Over those 6 months, we experienced intensity like never before, connection like never before, and discovery of ourselves like never before. One of the most amazing products of the tour was all of the people we interviewed along the way. And so after months of launching these interviews every week, we are now down to the final 2. And today's guest is one of those. We met Billy at the very beginning of the tour in Lake Placid, New York. And like so many of the connections we made, we stayed in touch. He followed our journey, and we followed his. Today's interview is the product of our reconnection during our stay in Arizona back in October, the last state before we made the California plunge. At that time, Billy was just a few weeks out from Ironman Cozumel, a final push that he was making to qualify for Kona. And if he didn't qualify, he was ready to walk away from the 140.6 distance for good. This conversation is an in-depth look into Billy's journey, his walk into the unknown, his road to plant-based nutrition, and the dissection of a controversial blog post that he authored following Ironman Chattanooga last year. A post that sparked much conversation, one that maybe you caught wind of, or maybe you were one of the many people who commented on this multi-sport rant. Well, this is a look inside to the author, a chance for him to share his intent, and let us all know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of such controversy. I love this conversation because there's something so vulnerable in Billy's words, and his struggles are real. I dig in on my questions with Billy, and I think we unearthed some pretty cool realizations. We appreciate you tuning in today, and thank you so much for your support. You guys, we couldn't do it without you, so please continue to use the Amazon banner ad and check out our Patreon page, where for as little as a couple bucks a month, you can help us keep sharing inspiring stories every week so that we can learn how people like Billy are living on purpose in their life. Stay tuned during the outro for an update on Billy's whereabouts and ongoings since our time with him last fall. So without any further ado, I invite you into our conversation with plant-based endurance athlete in Kona. Well, you're just going to have to listen to the outro and find out that info. Billy Hafferty. All right.
Guys.
Are you nervous? Why are you nervous? Nobody can see you.
You guys always told me I had the perfect face to be on your podcast.
I love your shirt, though. Grow a pair.
Oh, grow a pair.
What does that mean? What does that mean, grow a pair? Let's just start there. What does that mean in the way that you walk in this world?
It's a picture of a pear tree.
It is. It's a picture of a tree with a pear.
Listeners.
And it says grow a pear. But I want to know, like, what does that mean to you? Because I know what it means to me, grow a pear. Because I'm growing a pear like every day these days.
I don't know.
It's a cool t-shirt.
All right. I know. We could have gone somewhere really awesome with that, but whatever. Trying to direct this.
Go with it. What were you going to say?
What does grow a pear mean to you, BJ?
Means get out there and get it done.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Man up.
There you go. And so you actually did grow a pair, though, from the time that we saw you in Lake Placid. So we met you in Lake Placid at the beginning of our tour, which is actually a question for you is you met us, we didn't know you, and now you're here with us in Arizona. And as we were just discussing, we seem to have run out of states and we have to do this California thing we've been talking about for so long. So what has it looked like from your perspective, from meeting us and then being here at my sister's house in Arizona and recording this podcast?
It wasn't real until you kind of said that. And kind of looking back, it's been a crazy few months. Yeah, we're just down at Mirror Lake, and you guys had big smiles on, kind of just giving your energy out, and the crew that I was down there with was also
high energy group
for sure.
And I think Clark might have been a big connector. Clark has been Clark's been a major connector for us. But yeah, so you've kind of been following our journey, and like, what has that looked like from your perspective? Because I know what it looks like from our perspective, but somebody who's been watching it.
Like you said, I mean, you guys ran out of states. Like, you've been a lot more places than me. I just kind of, I posted up in Colorado for a bit, and now I'm in Arizona. So seeing you guys, like, just bounce around. I packed all my stuff up in a big truck. You guys have it in a tiny little car.
I was adding up our mileage yesterday, and we've driven well over 5,000 miles.
That's insane. Since what, June 14th?
Since June 14th. That's yeah. Cool. And we've done a lot of like 10 weeks in, we were only 3 hours from the place we started. Like, we've been in time zones and then gone back to other time zones. And we're about to do that again this Saturday or Sunday because it's daylight savings time. And now we're going to be back on mountain time. It's so funny because I feel this like push-pull.
Yeah, 3 hours, 2
and
hours.
We've driven like east and west.
Yeah, we don't like driving east anymore.
Sometimes, I think the latest one was from Utah. We had to drive east on whatever that road was to get around the Grand Canyon.
All right.
And then come down. So we're like, we got to go east to go west. Why can't we just go west?
Yeah. But I love it because it's such a metaphor for life, like the push-pull and the, going east when you want to go west and paying your dues and doing the diligence to get, where we want to go, which for us, it's living purpose and living in alignment. So when we met you in Lake Placid, I mean, we were like at a triathlon and you were talking to BJ and you were talking about like how you weren't so happy in a corporate job anymore, like not normal triathlon talk. And so what happened from the time that we met you, and I know we stayed in touch with you, but give us the rundown of what happened because you've gone through a lot of transformation since that day.
There was a lot, yeah, and that was it was funny because usually you meet people at triathlons and all you talk about is, the races and stuff like that. But yeah, BJ and I just started talking about, the journey that you guys just started on. And I remember I said to you a couple of times, BJ, yeah, I'm just not there yet. Like, that's the journey I want to be on, but I'm just not there yet. I don't know what's out there, but I'm gonna do it someday. And then we kept in touch on Facebook a little bit, and you were like, yeah, you can't rush it. There's no timeline. Just be you. And so July, I just started living out in Colorado. I was out there for about a month. Yeah, I thought the move to Colorado was gonna be fine. I stayed in the same position that I was when I left Boston, the same type role. But I thought the move to Colorado was the answer.
Oh, we call that a geographic.
A geographic,
yeah,
yes.
Classic geographic.
Right.
Until you realize that guess who comes with you?
You.
Yes, you got to go to
right.
You got to go to Denver. Has not believe me, I've driven over 5,000 miles, and guess who is always there? Me. I'm always there. Yeah, so you pulled a geographic, and how did that work?
It was the same type problem. The job wasn't who I was, and it was sucking up more and more time. And
what was it? What were you doing?
Project management role for a construction company.
Mm-hmm.
70, sometimes 80-hour weeks. It was just not where I wanted to invest my time. The money wasn't worth the investment of time. Yeah. And it was slowly just eating away.
Yeah. But on paper, like, quote unquote, secure.
Super secure. Yeah. Super.
Stable.
Right.
Good income.
Right.
Everything we're supposed to want.
I guess so, yeah.
So what happened? Why didn't you want it anymore?
I mean, I wanted the income, but I just didn't want to be spending so much of my life. The construction site, I'll never forget, like, looking out of the trailer and seeing the mountain ranges. And I was like looking out of the window and just being able to touch them. I was like, hey, I want to go explore. I want to be out there. I want to see more things. Just there's a whole world out there.
I love that. And you're literally like,
you're looking at them,
seeing it through. There's like you, and then there's your job that's like literally in front of you. And then past that are these big mountains.
That's what I went to Colorado for.
Calling you.
Yeah.
Physically, you have this job in between you and the mountains.
Right.
In that moment.
But you can see it. But like, it's not, it's still real. It was almost like I could reach out and touch them, but I was just behind the window and I had to crank away at the computer, like, oh, get this done, get this paperwork done, send out a million emails, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, eventually it was just too much. I was like, I don't want to, this isn't why I moved. I want to explore some more.
I want to dig into that a little bit more because I think a lot of us will say, like, eventually, and BJ said this with his job, like, eventually, I just couldn't do it anymore. And, for me, it was, eventually I couldn't deal with having all this material stuff anymore. I had to get rid of it. But what were some moments? Like, do you remember any moments, like, when you came home from work one night and you just felt, maybe miserable? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what did that eventual look like? How did it build?
So one of the guys I was working with was, we were out to lunch, just me and him, and he was talking about all the guns that he had. And the thing that rang out the most was just how he was going to build a whole gun closet of just all these guns. And I just couldn't relate to him anymore. And the next day I came across a quote. It was just, said something to the effect of, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I just said, this guy and the other 2 guys I was like, they can't be 3 out of the 5. Like, these, I can't
be gun closet guy.
Yeah. And he just was so passionate about, like, just going on. I can just see him going on, polishing his hands. There's nothing against gun owners or anything. I just couldn't relate to all the stuff that he was telling me and how badly he wanted to make the best guns and blah, blah, blah. So I was just,
I love that.
There's a disconnect there.
These guys can't be 3 of the 5.
Right. That's what I said. And I said that to my boss when I called him the next day. I said, I was like, listen, like, these aren't the people that I need to surround myself with. And
so that call to your boss, was that the call when you quit your job?
Yeah, for sure. And they tried to bring me back in a couple of times and talk me off the ledge, quote unquote, off the ledge, in their mind. But it was a decision that I think had already been made for weeks. I just needed someone to give me an elbow.
So prior to this, and I know you had been back and forth with BJ, and I remember a particular exchange that you and I had. You came into my mind one day, and I just reached out to you to see how things were going, and you replied to me in this with this description of how you were starting to feel a little scared because you had an idea of a timeline of when this shift was going to happen, but you were feeling like it was going to be sooner, and that was really scary. And do you remember what I said to you?
It kind of reassured me, like, okay, there's nothing to worry about. You're on the journey. Because
it was so prevalent in my own life and has been since, we started on this, that there is your schedule and your timeline.
Exactly. Yep.
And then there is a divine timeline and a divine schedule maker. And rarely do those two match up. But the divine one is the one that you feel, and the one that starts to come closer and feels scary because it doesn't match up to what you wrote in your calendar or what you believe to be true or what will happen.
Remember it fully now.
Yeah. And I can't remember the advice. I just think I explained that to you, and I said, just keep feeling into it. That's what I said. Just keep feeling into it and you'll know when to do it. It wasn't too long after that you posted a picture of a pedicab driver's license on your Facebook, and both BJ and I were like, oh my God, he did it. He did it. So the gun closet guy, that was a really potent moment. Was there anything else that gave you that courage to grow a pair and jump?
Yeah. It might take away from a little bit of the courage aspect of it, but I had a few friends who opened their arms in their house to me in Flagstaff, and they were like, "Yeah, listen, don't worry about it. Like, if you're gonna come crash with us, you want to try and figure things out here, come on by." So I had a place to stay with them. I lined that up, and I lined up a few other things with the pedicab and with writing for a couple of online articles.
Yeah, and I don't think that takes away from the courage. I think what that shows is that when you start to move in alignment, things open up.
Yeah, for sure.
We were just talking about this story about our meditation teacher who walked across the United States. He found himself without a dime in his pocket and walked by a man who was painting his house and stopped and was just watching the man. And the man looked at him and said, "What are you thinking? What do you think?" And he said, "Well, I think I can do a better job." And the guy climbed down the ladder and handed him his paintbrush, and he said, "Okay, then do it." And he paid him, and that's how he got his money. And so it's this trust, you have to have this unwavering faith that when we step in, that the paintbrush will be handed to us, that we will have that opportunity to make the fall from the jump a little more cushioned. It doesn't guarantee that it's always going to be cush and easy. Sometimes if we're landing in a trampoline, sometimes we can bounce out, right? Like if you ever bounced out or bounce where you got your leg stuck in the spring.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes things like that happen, but we survive. And so I don't think that takes away from the courage at all. I think that shows that things started to unfold for you that made it a little easier for you to say, okay, I'm going to do this. But it also doesn't take away from the strengthening of that feeling that what you were doing was no longer what you were supposed to do.
Right. Like you guys always say, it was just kind of like a bunch of little things that, that don't really make a ton of sense at the time. But then you realize, looking back, however many weeks, months, or years, all of this was pointing me to where I am now, to this place.
And you have to be in that position to be open, for those signs, because those signs can come, and those signs are coming in and out all the time. Like they're coming in right now. Now, if you're not aware, they're just going to fly by. But the more you open up, the more you can see and be open to whatever comes and not be so hard lined. At least I found that these signs are more prevalent. Like you start to see them and you start to go along with it more. And that's something we've done on this journey, is just be open.
Sure.
Like you can have goals and work towards them, but what we find is just letting go a little bit really will help showcase what the future may hold. So being open to those things, I think talking about calling your boss and actually, quitting or saying you don't want to work there anymore is a tough thing to do, because you're a good employee and he probably wanted to keep you there and it's so easy to say yes. Okay, well, or more money or less hours. Yeah, we can do this. But what really takes to grow a pair is to continue.
That might have to be
this shirt. I turn the shirt inside out or something.
I think it's going to be in the Billy Hafferty Yogi Triathlete podcast number on growing a pair. I love it.
But it's to continually stay with that momentum and keep going, because it is easy to fall back.
It is.
I see it at least, come up every now and then where I could easily fall back into what I was doing before, but
exactly,
it's just going to bring you back to what your thoughts were, your emotions. You're going to be looking at those mountains again and wishing you were out there. So following that momentum and continuing to pursue what is really driving you, what is making you happy,
what you want to do every day, like.
And surrounding yourself with those 5 people. You've got 2 here. Right. So now you've got 3 good people.
Amazing people.
We've been coming in contact with so many people, and I've had a lot of long talks with people on this trip. And a lot of those talks have been around what they're doing, what they dream of, what they're scared of about pursuing those dreams. And my question to them is always, if today was your last day here on earth and what you're doing with it, does it fill you up? And every person that I've asked that question to has said no. Every person I've asked that question to has said no. That what they are doing in their life is not filling them up. What is it that allowed you, what do you think it is that allowed you to put that fear aside and all those questions aside and all that doubt aside and leave the paycheck and walk away from the stability, which I always air quote because I think that's such a joke. What do you think it was that allowed you to say, if today was the last day on this earth, like what I'm doing right now fills me up, and owning that? Like, what do you think it was?
I think back to a few, it wasn't things or events or anything, but the people. I think it all comes down to the people you surround yourself with. I had, like I said, came into contact with you guys, and just from the past 5 hours, I mean, I biked down from Flagstaff, and BJ ended up driving me an hour to drop my bike off at the bike shop. And then we stayed at the bike shop for probably another half an hour. And then we drove an hour back. And then you guys cooked me dinner. Like, it's just, I'm overwhelmed kind of just with the caliber of people that I've come into contact with just over the past year-ish that kind of set me up. And I can only hope to give back eventually, but I'm not in the position to do that right now. But yeah, a lot of it was just amazing girlfriend back home, a lot of different coaches, and with triathlon and life just kind of everything lined up, and it was just time to make the jump. I don't think I could have done it without such an awesome support system in the people around me. And I think you attract those kind of people that you want in your life.
The community that you surround yourself with is everything. And
100%.
It's huge. And I love that was your answer, because I never would have thought of that as an answer. And it's so perfect, because don't feel that we ever have to do these things alone. Like, yeah, we're the ones that have to call the boss and say, okay, right, I'm not going to work here anymore. But it's being open to receiving that invitation to stay with your friends, receiving, the food that we prepared for you tonight, and just receiving it and knowing that we're doing it without wanting anything in return. And those are the kind of people that will give you the strength to make huge life changes. And I have this conversation a lot with people that I work with who are starting to meditate. And what they're finding is that every relationship in their life is changing because, in the least, I've got people who are sitting for 5 minutes a day, and their life is changing.
So easy.
And so what I explain to them or what they find, and then we talk about, is some people in their lives start to fall away. And that's okay. And even since we've been on this trip, people have fallen away out of our lives. And it's okay. It's all right. It doesn't mean that they're bad and we're good. It doesn't mean that we're mad at them and they're mad at us. It just means that if everything is energy, that energetic connection has been severed, that theirs started to go in a different direction than ours. And when you start to align yourselves with your purpose, right, you might find that people start to fall away, but you also find that core group of people that give you the strength every day to take the next step forward.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something special. And it's something, I think, just as you're saying that, it's an equal challenge to kind of give and take. I don't know. I always feel awkward just in the car. I was like, BJ, what can I do? Like, do you want to stop? Can we get some food? Like, let me pay for gas. Like, and I just kind of feel super awkward just in the position of reception.
Yeah, it's a place where not a lot of people feel comfortable. But my response to you tonight is when you were saying, can I do something? Can I contribute? And I said, we're here in this beautiful house and we have this food, and just allow us to prepare it for you and understand that you're gonna be in service of somebody at some point.
For sure.
At some point, right? Like, it could
Absolutely.
be tomorrow, it could be in 5 years, and maybe you'll remember that. Maybe it'll be in 20 years when somebody comes to you and they need a meal, right?
For sure.
And you just provide it with no want of anything in return. Just,
right.
And the return was sitting and having a great chat with you. I mean, I got to talk about the Bhagavad Gita for a half an hour, which is my drug. I love that book. And now you're going to read it.
I can't wait. I got to put it down and it was sometime within the next 3 weeks.
So you made the jump. And I've got one more question on this before we switch gears. The things that you feared when you were thinking about making this jump, and I know I've asked BJ this question too, the things that you feared about, not having the income and, not having the job or the security or whatever, have any of those fears, have you found that you don't have what you need?
Never, no. And it's weird. Just dropping the bike off at the bike shop, and the bill was quite hefty. And I was telling her, I was like, wow, that was funny. I just got a check, for another couple of articles that I wrote the other day. And it was almost the exact same amount. I was like, wow, that's kind of strange how that happens. I don't know if magic's the right word for it, but just the balance of it all maybe is a better word. So it's kind of cool. To that point, right when I remember packing up in Boston, and I had everything in the back of the truck, and all my friends were kind of oh, good for you. That takes so much courage, and that takes so much strength. Good for you. And kind of telling me how brave I was and all that, all the other buzzwords. At the time, it just felt right. It didn't feel like I was being brave or, having all this courage. It felt like what I just needed to do.
Yeah.
But then you guys, you get out on the road and they're like, oh, this is what they're talking about. You get on your journey and they're like, okay, yeah, there is some scary stuff that pops up on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that are super hard to deal with sometimes. But I grew up the past 28 years in Boston. So I left. I'm a big family guy. I had a whole big social network that I kind of grew in Boston, and yeah, just missing home and
worrying about what other people think, or
sure,
did you get the guilt,
yeah,
the guilt.
yeah, all of that. I mean, you guys probably have it too, but yeah, just the same. It's the same stuff. Yeah,
well, it's comfortable, right? It'd be comfortable
for sure.
But comfortable, but so uncomfortable because you moved.
Right.
You left it.
Right. There's no denying that. Yeah.
Right? You see how like the mind works? It's those like the hotels that have like the revolving door. Yeah. I swear to God, that's what it is. It like comes in, it turns around, it goes around, it comes in the back door, it goes around. And it just spins around, but when you can see it, you start to understand, oh, that's just my mind in the revolving door.
It's tough to think about sometimes, but then other times, you're on the right path, and you're doing things that bring you happiness in the rawest, truest sense of the word.
And that's when you're in alignment. Like you did not, from what I'm getting from this, you did not, people were calling you brave but it felt so right to you.
It didn't, It didn't feel like I was.
So that's completely what's in line with what you should be doing. Like you didn't hesitate at all. There were those moments, but you just continued to go through it. And that to me, if you're looking for a sign, that's a sign that says,
for sure,
keep going.
For sure. Told you guys about the Alchemist, the book The Alchemist, and I want you to read it because and I don't want to give too much away, but it's just it's awesome how it's all encompassed. And I know we've had some literature exchanges tonight, and I reiterate that I can't wait to.
Is there a quote from that book that you think of, or a part that you pull from?
There is, but.
It's okay.
I don't want to spoil the end of it, but at the end, like the protagonist just finds he's had everything that he's been looking for. He goes out on this wild journey. Like I'll summarize it in two sentences. He goes out on a wild journey. He gets beat down, and at the end, he realizes he's had everything that he's needed for this journey all along, and he's got to go on this crazy journey. So it's awesome how it kind of wraps up.
Like in order for him to realize that all along he had everything he needed, he had to go on this whole crazy journey.
Yeah. And he had to get beat down, and robbed, and he goes through hell, and it's an awesome story.
It's like it's the rock bottom. It's the classic, like you got to hit rock bottom until
realize what you have is.
Yeah, or you hit the rock bottom before you change, and change can be a change of mindset, just realizing that you've had what you've needed all along. I was actually talking to my mother today about all the different places that we've slept. We've slept in a tent. We've slept in a hotel in Midtown Manhattan. We've slept in a 12,000 square foot house. We've slept in Airbnbs. We've slept in a 5,000 square foot house. We were doing pretty good, I have to say.
Did you guys ever sleep in the car?
We haven't slept in the car.
Recline down now.
We've slept in a couple hotels where you kind of peel back the bed and be like, ooh, if I had a black light, I wouldn't be so psyched right now. And I just go to sleep that night when I just wear socks and then I tuck my sweatpants into my socks and a long sleeve shirt. So we've slept in all these different places. And I was saying to her, I have slept so well every single night. She said, God, I could never do that because I only sleep well at home. What is home? And home is like this body that I'm sitting in. That's home. And I've never felt that more than I have on this trip because every day just feels like life. I don't feel like I'm on this crazy adventure. I don't feel like anything is crazy. I just feel like it's life. And everywhere I go just feels like I'm home.
That's an awesome way to put it.
Yeah.
We keep driving, like we drove home today from Tempe. Like we just drove home. And when we were in Nashville, we were just
driving home.
Driving back from the pool, we would go home.
Yeah.
It's just a natural. It's all perception. I guess it's back to that. What is your perception? What is your reality in this moment?
Yeah, I mean, I was this girl. I mean, I would do anything not to be with myself. I would do anything to avoid having to sit with myself. And I know that that's how most people live, and it's this practice of self-reflection. And I think when you start to get away from the noise and listen to those signs of like, gun closet guy is not my guy. He can't be my 1 in 5. Like he can't, and you start to listen to that and you act upon it. You start to see, who you really are. And it's not, I mean, for me, it was super ugly at times, but that's how you start to find home. That's really how you start to find home. I want to switch gears because we've got a couple different things that we want to talk about. You're a plant-based athlete.
Yes, ma'am.
And I want to talk about that. I want to hear your plant-based story.
It really started for me about 3 years ago. Well, I started eating, quote unquote, healthier right after college. I started running, and the running led to some weight loss, and the weight loss led to more running, and then I just started eating healthier. But I made the decision about 3 years ago, coming up on 3 years ago, just to cut meat and chicken. It was actually the day before Thanksgiving. Yeah, I just never kind of looked back. I always thought it was just kind of, for me, it was just like unfulfilling. Like I remember finishing like a whole chicken breast or a whole prime rib and just being super unsatisfied. And you can get so much nutrients and satisfaction from a huge salad. Well, I get the satisfaction from eating a big bowl of salad, then cutting up an ounce of steak and eating that. So that's how it started, and I've been pretty much fully vegan for almost 6 months now.
So is the cheese the last to go?
Yeah, just like you. It's always the cheese, right?
It's like the lingerer. It's lingering.
Nacho man over here.
Oh my God. Oh God. I was like, there was a time in my life where we had some friends, male friends, who whenever we go out to dinner, be like, oh great, Brian's coming because I can split the queso with him because BJ never really liked queso. And I literally like had thoughts sometimes like, I wish I married a guy who liked queso. And
checks all the boxes except for the queso.
Yeah, exactly. Like reason for divorce, non-queso eating husband. Oh. What was it about the dairy that you finally were able to let go of it?
I think I just tried it. There wasn't a big moment. I wanted to race. I raced a couple months ago in Coeur d'Alene, and I was like, okay, if you're gonna go all in, like, gotta try it out. Like, why not try it out? Nothing else has really helped diet wise, and then I didn't really miss it after I gave it up.
Did you feel any difference in your health or energy levels or anything in your body from letting it go?
The major shift happened when I gave up meat.
And you were playing football for many years,
for
right?
Sure. Yeah, I played football for about 14 years, since like second grade all the way through college, and I was always an offensive lineman. The conversation was, how much. It wasn't like what you had. It was like how much meat did you eat? Like how many pancakes can you eat? How many slices of bacon? Like, it's kind of just a competition, especially on the O-line when weight is cherished.
Right. That's how you move other people.
So,
but then you switched and you lost a significant.
Yeah, you just get on that. It's like the upward spiral. Everybody kind of like talks about the downward spiral of whatever the reaction is, but this is like an upward spiral. So you're eating better, so you're feeling better, and then you're running faster or performing better, whatever your sport is, and then you feel better because you just did whatever it is, a 25-minute 5K or whatever your goal is, and you start to realize that it's all interconnected. What you put into your body is the results you get out of your body. So it was just an experiment, and it was the one that I did the paleo thing for a while. I did the Atkins thing first, and like it was just an experiment. And then when I finally gave up meat, it was the experiment that worked.
Well, I think what happens the more and more I talk to people who are who are vegan, like fully vegan, they've gone that way for health reasons. A lot of people are athletes that we talk to. They went there but then something happens. Like you're just more open to learning. And maybe it's because you're hanging out with the vegan people and you're listening to like Rich Roll and the Yogi Triathlete podcast.
Yep.
And you're getting educated. And so the veil starts to lift. And then once you learn, you're like, oh man, I can't go back. Like I can't go back. And I'm not saying that all vegans can't go back. Some people do and all of that. But what I love about your story and your process was that you just found out what worked best for you. And this is what works best for you.
For sure.
Yeah. And that's what we did. Like we were listening to, Rich Roll, and we were following his story, and we were like, for me, it wasn't a big deal to give up meat. And then we realized like, God, it just feels so good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so good. So as an athlete, and you're now training for Ironman Cozumel, do you feel that you're getting everything you need from your diet?
And more. Absolutely. BJ and I were riding last weekend, and I took a wrong turn, and I went down the worst wrong turn of my life. So we were doing intervals, 6 by 30 minutes, and I missed where the guys went. They went left and I went straight. And about 3 minutes down the road, there was a farm, this big cow farm. I don't even know how to describe it. It's a big open field, and I kept riding, and I went over this little crest of a hill, and oh my God, it was like the worst sight I think I've seen. I can't go back. Half a mile of cows locked up, like in the stables, and they're all standing the narrow way, side by side, shoulder to shoulder, for a half a mile, and I timed it. I timed it on my watch. It was a half a mile. I don't even know how many cows that is. Like 1,000. It's got to be over 1,000 cows, I would guess. It was like the saddest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I took a video of it. At the end, I was like, yep, this is why I'm vegan. Yeah, like this is the right decision.
Oh my God.
And it was right up against the road, too.
Right up against the road.
It couldn't be any closer to the road.
My goodness.
Oh my God.
It was heartbreaking. And they were all staring at me like their little necks were going with me. As I moved down the road, they didn't moo or say anything. It was like one of the saddest things I've ever seen. And
did you just feel that like sadness?
Yeah. It reiterated the decisions that I've made. Like maybe I had to see that, but man, oh man, my heart just dropped. I knew I wanted to take a video of it because I can't even explain. Like I say, a half a mile of cows shoulder to shoulder. And you probably think, oh yeah, that's a lot of cows. But what it really was a half a mile of cows. I'm going 18 miles an hour for over 2 minutes. And it's just crazy to see. It was heartbreaking.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, now when I see that, now when I like go into, drive past a butchery or whatever, like it's like that's what you're getting. Yeah. They're all looking at me as I bike by. It was so sad.
You're making that connection between what goes on your plate and where it actually comes from.
Sure.
And when you make that connection, it's so impactful. It's so heavy, and I know that it's difficult to digest at times.
Yeah.
We've had some deep experiences on this trip, whether we're driving on the road and we see the cattle trucks drive by, or we're staying at a farm, and every time we go back and forth from the farm, we see more farms. So it's out there, and I think when it's important to make that connection and not just see them for what they are, but see them more for why they're there and what their end result is. So what you're saying is it just reinforced everything that you've done for the past 3 years that you've turned more plant-based.
That's a vision you're never going to forget.
Ever.
And
the little eyes following me, as I travel down the road. Yeah. It was so, I can't even describe it in a way that does it justice. It was just.
I've had a few intense moments on this trip from things that I've seen. And there's also some visions that I have in my head from movies that I've watched that they can't be erased. And there's no mistake of what we see. And it's when we're open to receiving it. And yeah, I don't think that was a wrong term, but whoa, that was intense.
It was intense for sure.
Yeah, so make no mistake. I don't want anyone to make any mistake. Like when you're vegan or you're plant-based or whatever it is that you call yourself, like seeing things like this is not easy. It's actually, it's so much easier to just be like, I need my steak, you know? And yeah, like I know it comes from cows, but whatever. And then it's like, you know, it comes from cows and you need your steak, but everything in between is like blacked out. Yeah. It's completely blacked out. That's a much easier way. That is such an easier way. But the damage that gets done in living that way is, it's like reprehensible. And I was a contributor.
For sure.
Yeah. Huge.
Well, it's just what we were talking about before. I was curious. I mean, everybody, I think the majority of people who make the change were once a contributor. Like, as I was asking before, like, there's few and far between people that have been full-on vegan their whole lives without, you know, making some conscious decisions along the way. It's not an ignorant choice. It's a choice out of consciousness, I think.
Oh, huge. And whatever your entry point is, you know, if it's health or whatever, it's still a conscious choice. Like, I want to be healthier. And the research now is just, you know, you can't.
It's undeniable.
As we interviewed Dr. Neil Barnard, and he was just like, there's just no excuses anymore. Like, what's available for doctors to know at this point is just, there's no excuses at this point. I'm so glad you shared that. And I'm so glad you're a plant-based athlete. So you're going to Cozumel. And yeah, I just want to say one more thing. Like, when you eat this way, I feel like I'm sacrificing anything. Like, tonight we had a plant-based fettuccine Alfredo, which wasn't that good? Like,
so
didn't
good.
it? I mean, I don't really know at this point what fettuccine Alfredo tastes like, but because I never used to order it, because I'd always be like, it's a heart attack on a plate. Like, I can't get it. But I've had bites here and there.
You never got the tour of Italy from what's it called, Olive Garden?
No. I just go for the breadsticks and the free breadsticks and salad. Yeah, we were broke when we used to go to. We should probably start going back. But I thought it was pretty amazing, and you know, that was actually leftovers from last night because we were also stuffed, and then I sauteed up some garlic and shallots and blanched some broccoli and asparagus and threw that in there. What's that?
You taught me how to blanch.
I just learned how to blanch.
I didn't know what it was.
Now I was able to serve people who love to blanch. And then roasted up some butternut squash, and it was like so yummy. So there's
and you finish and you feel so good.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, I was feeling like really tired earlier, and then after we ate, because it's 9:40 at night. Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm never up
it's
this
a late
late.
Podcast.
And at 8:30, we were like, all right, let's podcast. Whereas if you had like an fettuccine Alfredo, we'd probably be sitting on the couch with our pants unzipped.
Passed out.
Yeah.
The TV on.
More wine.
Yeah, exactly. But instead, I'm ready to go. We're riding the high vibe. All right, so you're moving into Cozumel, and you're training with the Iron Cowboy.
We're 3 weeks out. We're
James Lawrence, who we all were hanging out in Utah. Little shout out to James, who kept us captive in Utah for 6 days.
That's so
we were
awesome.
only going to go for like a day.
I think that's so awesome.
Yeah, so how are you feeling? Are you feeling prepped and ready?
I'm feeling good. Yeah. This was a last minute, not a last minute, but within the last couple of weeks decision for me. I raced Coeur d'Alene back in August, and I knew I didn't really race to my potential. And I was kind of bummed out about that, but I've been there before, and I kind of know how to deal with it. And I just like, man, okay, maybe, I got like one more shot. The end goal has always been to try and get the coveted Kona spot. But yeah, I missed it by two slots, and then previous time missed it by one slot. So kind of been flirting with that. And I don't know why it's such a goal. Everybody's like, oh, why you keep doing it? Like, what motivates you to keep doing it? And I was just like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm flirting with it. So like, why not give it a go? And this is kind of the last. I just turned 29, so this will be the last chance in the 25 to 29 age group. So I feel like it's a time to go for it.
What are the qualifying times looking like? What did they look like last year in Cozumel?
I wish I could say I don't know.
Oh, you're just pulling it up.
But
we're getting stats.
No. I wish I could say I do know. I wish I could say I don't know. The two qualified last year did 9:30s.
Yeah. Guess what? The 30 to 34s go faster.
I know.
35 to 39s go faster. And this freaking 40 to 44, like, it's crazy. Like,
I know.
Everybody just keeps getting faster.
So yeah, if there's a time to do it for me, it's one more time, and I've put a lot of time and energy over the past 5 years into Ironman, and I just feel like if I go for it and don't make it happen this year, I'll be happy with the energy I put into it over the past 5 years. I'm very content with that, but I just felt like in my heart I wanted to give it one more shot.
Well, and I know your coach believes in you because I was sitting across the table last Friday night. And he just kept looking at you and saying, you're going to qualify for Kona.
I know.
And that's a hard thing to hear, right? Is that a hard thing to hear and to agree with?
I've been thinking about that a lot. I don't know. I felt so confident. The past 2 races, I've felt so confident. I don't know what it looks like. I look up to people back in Boston who tell me, like, it took me 10 times. It took me a dozen times.
And then there's just people it takes one time.
And then there are people
they're like,
that just
Kona, what's Kona?
Yeah.
I got a slot. There's those people.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how to put that in my brain yet. There's a lot out of your control when you're going for something it's not like a Boston qualifier where you got to run a 3:05 and then you get into Boston and you get to apply to be in Boston. So I just want to go out and feel like I left it all out there.
You don't feel like you've put it all out there before?
I do feel like I've put it all out there before. I'm just envious of that clip of the Brownlee brothers, and I know the race is a quarter of a distance, but that doesn't take away from any of the effort. But I just feel like, if I could just not die, but pass out at the finish line, run out of energy at the finish line, that's the efficiency. You put it all out there and you still raced your smart race and really dug deep. Then I'll be happy with not doing another Ironman for a while. It's been a long 4 years.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
It's been a long journey.
We'll see what happens. Well, speaking of digging, you kind of dug yourself a grave recently.
Yeah, I guess so.
After Chattanooga, we saw record DNFs at Chattanooga, the Ironman, right? And you were inspired to write a blog post. And
yes.
So why don't you tell us what the name of the blog post, what inspired it? What did you want to say? What was your point? But start with the name of it.
The name of it, I changed after I got a lot of.
You kind of changed it.
You got some feedback.
Yes. So it started off. It was the Wussification of 140.6, and I realized that was the wrong choice of words. I didn't mean it in a misogynistic kind of way. It was just you hear the term I pussed out, or don't be a sourpuss like that. That's how I. And it was the wrong choice of words
you don't want
to
those
put
feminists
into
going after you, man.
Well, yeah, but I can see how it was misconstrued,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that. And I don't. It wasn't the best choice of words to put into a public forum that was open to be construed in any way.
Because
so,
you knew this blog post was going to create some controversy.
I knew it was going to ruffle some feathers.
So what did the title end up being?
The Wussification.
The Wussification of 140.6.
So I definitely could have done a little more research. It was kind of a knee-jerk reaction. And I just meant it to say that I feel like people can dig deeper it gotten a lot more comments or hits that I've ever seen. And I tried to read through them all once, but I just lost the energy for it. Some of the comments were just not worth any sort of time or energy. Like, I think I got a couple of people that just said, like, F you, man. Like, straight up. I was like, well, I think I appreciate your feedback, but I think you missed the point. One of the cliche quotes that go around, a lot of people don't give enough on their first wind to know that they have a second wind. And I feel like there's few and far between times in my athletic career, probably a handful of times, if not less, that I've actually like been down in that hole and totally faced the fear and just kept pushing and just kept going. And I know how good that feels at the finish line, like having faced all that adversity. And I wish that everybody could feel that good, just faced with all your fears and your biggest, like, absolute worst fear, whatever that may be in the race. Like, I have a friend who started a marathon. She said, I have two goals. I'm just gonna run fast. I'm gonna be happy, and I'm not gonna shit my pants. And that was it. Like, that was her biggest fear. And sure enough, like, probably 3.5, almost coming up on 4 hours, and she's coming up with only 2 or 3 miles to go left. And sure enough, she ran around the corner and she sees me, and I'm cheering for her. I'm like, I can't believe you're doing so great. You're gonna finish, blah blah blah. Shit my pants. She looks at me crying. She was like, but she kept going and she kept digging deeper. And I just remember that's what you do this for, not to shit your pants, but just to face whatever it is you fear the most. And how are you going to do battle? You guys talk about the warrior path, just being ready for anything at all times. And it's like, most of the time, you don't even know what to expect. So how can you be ready for it? But just knowing that you're going to be able to go into battle, and then whatever comes out the other side, being proud of. So when you cross that finish line, just saying like, oh my God, that was the worst, but I did it. I'd love to see people talk about that more rather than, I gotta choose my words carefully, rather than quit early. And sometimes DNFing and quitting is completely justified. I'm the last person that's going to judge, but most of the times I think people can just go to that next level of going to battle.
Do you feel this in Ironman specifically? Because in your blog post, you say in a couple paragraphs down, to get to the main point of my rant, and you're very clear that this was a rant, is signing up for Ironman becoming trendy? Is the slogan, anything is possible in need of a gut check? Because to me, it's more sounding like anyone can sign up. And so do you feel like this, do you feel like this is Ironman, or do you feel like this is marathons and 5Ks and endurance 10Ks sports? And
you willingly sign up for this stuff. There's different reasons, but like I would argue that the majority of people sign up to do their best and see what they can do. I just don't know why you would want to sign up without truly testing yourself.
So you're assuming that there's people out there that are signing up for Ironman, but quitting before.
That was the target, yes.
Those are the people that you're talking to, because you get a lot of responses from people who are like, I'm trained by a pro. I've been to Kona 5 times. I had an injury leading into this.
Those aren't the people that this was directed at.
Well, what happened was everybody took it personally.
I think so.
Everyone, they did not see who the intent was for. And, and to play the devil's advocate, we were talking about the fear of quitting jobs and things like that. Like, the feeling that you were having before you quit your job, so many people are living that, and they might live that for the rest of their life, right? And they'll never be able to do it. So sometimes the biggest thing that someone can do is not only sign up, but just get to the starting line. And if they can get to the starting line, they're like, oh my God, I've given it my all. Right.
Yeah,
so I think
that's awesome.
what you showed is perspective. Like you have a perspective. I have a different perspective. BJ probably has a different perspective. Like we were really talking about this in the car. The people who attacked you were completely on the defense, but they also had a different perspective.
For sure, yeah.
But you have the right to share your perspective. And that day, it was, and this blog post was for those people that you feel just kind of sign up for it and maybe tap out a little early.
Yeah, like the main, I say target, but it wasn't target.
It was a brand. You had a target.
So yeah, like I don't like the sign up, post about it on social media for 6 months, and then wuss out, for lack of a better term. Like, this is my main point. Like, if you can ask yourself, and you are the only judge of yourself, if you can tell yourself, like, oh, I really gave it my all, like, and I just couldn't do the swim. You get a mile into the swim and you can be honest and true to yourself, and no one else cares. But if you can talk to yourself in a true and honest voice and say, I gave it my all and I didn't give up, then you need to be proud of that. Like, and whether it's a mile into the swim or whether it's just a mile into a 5K, like, I doubt you're going to get people that to say like, oh yeah, I just, every now and again, yeah, sure, I just gave it my all. But you just need to be true to yourself with these answers.
And in that respect, then your perspective like really shouldn't matter to them.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because it's just your perspective. You don't know what's going on in their head or their body in that moment.
For sure. And that's the thing. Like, I don't care.
Right.
But I just know how good it feels to face that. And like I said, I'm not saying that every race I triumph over adversity. Like, I give in, that's why I signed up for Cozumel, because I didn't feel like I gave up on myself within the last 8 miles. I didn't do a good job. And I'm honest with myself. Like, okay, like, I want to go out and race again. Like, do I really want to race again? Like, you're the only person that you have to answer to.
So I have a question. So if this idea of what we see in the world is a mirror of ourselves, is this rant really directed at you?
Sure, it could be, I guess. I mentioned in the article the past 2 Ironmans that I've done. One of them is a PR, but I still didn't give it my all. I gave up on myself again, mile 18. Started walking. I even saw the kid. I saw the kid with a stupid 28 on his calf, and he passed me. and I just saw him, and I saw him get smaller and smaller, and I gave up. And I think another point of the article is, if you decide to give up, don't place the blame on anything except yourself. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't accept the excuse of, whatever it is, Chattanooga was hot, and I know it was hot, and I know it's unhealthy to race in the heat or push your body, and I'm not telling people to go until they pass out, but just, if you give up, you need to own it. You can't hide behind the fact that it was X degrees or whatever. Like, just be proud of it. If you gave up after giving it your all and you're proud of it, there's no need for an excuse.
So you had pointed us in the direction of a podcast, Endurance on Fire, where the host basically went through this blog post piece by piece.
Yeah, really dissected it.
Yeah, really dissected it.
To the point where I couldn't even finish his podcast.
He agreed with a lot of what you were saying. And then when he didn't agree, my perspective on that was he just kind of called you a name.
It was very belligerent.
Yeah.
At that point, it was...
It would get like a little belligerent. And I think one of the things that you talked about, which is what I feel like you were just getting at, is that he really drilled in this idea of the difference between a reason and an excuse.
Okay. I didn't make it that
and
far.
The reason, yeah.
Sorry.
And the reason being the one that you truly own. And I think that's exactly what you were just saying.
Sure.
And again, I'm not saying I agree with any of this or I don't agree with it. I'm just giving you space to share your perspective. But an excuse being like, it was hot, I couldn't do it. Like,
sure.
As opposed to owning whatever the quote unquote reason, if I'm going to quote this guy, like the reason. So a difference between a reason and an excuse.
Sure. I think a reason starts with I think a reason looks intrinsically, does it start with I or does it start with something else? Oh, it was hot out, or I didn't plan for the heat.
Right. So I being like, you own
accept.
it. You're owning it.
Right.
So what do you want? And we'll link to this blog post so people can read it and maybe leave you a couple other comments. Who knows? I mean, you had comments that were completely belligerent, and then you had comments that people were like agreeing. And I want to share one thing, and it wasn't that long ago when the mass starts were taken away at Ironman. I was really, I definitely was attached to those mass starts. I loved those mass starts. And when that was taken away, I was pissed. And I used I remember a Facebook post I did linking to the article about the Swim Safe, Swim Start program, and said, what's up with, I think I even called it the Wussification, or why is Ironman wussifying their events? And I used that word. Huh? I know. And I posted it, and I remember afterwards thinking about it and thinking about how mean that was for me to do, and how that didn't feel good to me. It felt very judgmental, and it felt very pointing the finger, and it also felt very separatist, like I was better because I could do a mass start. And I would say, well, if you can't do a mass start, then you shouldn't do an Ironman. So this was me. Like, I get it. Like, when this came out, that was the first thing I thought of. I was like, God, I did the same damn thing. Now,
how long did it take for you to make that shift?
Oh, it was pretty quick.
Okay.
It was pretty quick. And then I started to think about Ironman is a business, right? They're a business. They've got a bottom line, and it keeps growing every single year. And so where are they seeing their biggest growth? They're seeing it with these people who are making huge life changes, who are like, I can do this. Anything is possible. Sure. And I started to see it from this other perspective that regardless of what I thought about the mass start, that was my own attachment and my own crap that I had to deal with. But what this company was doing, and I had a choice to do their races or not do their races.
Exactly.
But what this company was doing, it was opening up a gateway. It was giving an access point for people to start to believe in themselves. And I saw then like this much bigger picture with my ego removed, and was like, so what?
Yeah.
If it's not a mass start anymore, so what? Maybe that's going to make the person who never would sign up for an Ironman now sign up and get to the starting line and finish this race because they were so panicked about the swim. I just started to look at it from a 10,000 foot view up above, right? I just started to look down on it. So I guess what I'm saying is I absolutely get your rant. I absolutely get it, because I probably would have written it at one point in my life.
Yeah.
Now I just see it as, I don't know what people's access or exit points are. And I truly believe that no matter what I would do, that I believe that everyone is out there doing the best they can, regardless of if I think that their limits are acceptable or not.
Right. I agree with you 100%. A couple of the comments were like, why do you care? Why do you care? And it's just, there's two lanes I kind of want to touch on. Like, I want to share that feeling of pushing through. And I think it would be special if everybody got to feel it at least once. And I guess this piece was kind of supposed to be a tough love. Like, you know, there's a time and place for like, oh, keep going. Like, you know, we got your back. Yeah, you look great. You know, blah, blah, blah. And then there's a time and place for, listen, get your butt in gear. Like, stop feeling sorry for yourself. And it's hard to know, unless you really know the person, it's hard to know when to do both or either. So I had been posting a lot about like feel good stories on my blog, and it was getting a lot of likes, and it felt good to me to like share these stories. But like, I feel for the people who gave up on themselves too early, prematurely gave up on themselves. And that's intrinsic. That's within you. Like I said, answer to yourself. Because I know how bad that feels at the end of the race. Like, why did I give up so early? Like, whatever. I think a lot of the controversy also stirred in me being a brand new writer with this blog that was getting a decent amount of hits. I feel like I just maybe played the keyboard on all the nerves. Like, you kind of go up and down the keyboard. Like, so I just like, kind of just rant and just said like, oh, let me just talk on all the subjects so I can piss everybody off or get everybody pumped. And like you said, everybody kind of took it
personally.
And another thing is that the hardest thing for me in hearing all those comments was hearing that people perceived me as an elitist. That's what hurt them. And that's kind of what drove me to stop reading the comments, because it was hard to hear that, just because I root for everybody. Being labeled as an elitist and knowing how much I don't care about the time, I just want you to push yourself. That's kind of what hurt the most. And if I could go back and change some of the words in there to take people's perspective of me as an elitist away, I think that's what I would kind of change the most.
But that's their perception of you, from
right?
that
Right,
article.
From right.
And why do you
mean
care?
anything
Right,
again? But it just, I don't know why. I do. Like, I don't want people to think of me like that when it doesn't matter. No, I don't care. And in Cozumel, if you think for 2 seconds that I'm not going to think about this, I'm going to think about slowing down.
Fuel you a little bit, right?
And I'm not going to think about everybody throwing bombs, lobbing grenades at me, and then sure, maybe that's why I wrote it. Selfishly, I don't think so. But like, that's definitely going to be thinking about that in a few weeks.
So there's two things. There's two things I'm seeing from this. One, and correct me and jump in at any point. One, you have a feeling that's overwhelming and compels you to share with the people that you want them to feel what you feel. Like pushing through and getting across the finish line and feeling like you pushed yourself to your best ability, and you want people to feel that feeling. Like that
best feeling in the world.
Best feeling in the world. You want them to capture that.
Whether it's a PR or not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Time
doesn't matter. It's the feeling.
Right.
So we get that. Two, I want to touch upon Ironman, and it is a business, and all their marketing efforts are about getting more people into Ironman, because when you get more people into Ironman, you're a more successful business because you're getting $800 every time. Right?
Right.
So the average Joe who wants to get into Ironman can get in now because the marketing is like anything is possible. When in reality, this is an epic day-long endurance event that takes, I guess, 6 months or more of training.
Sure.
I mean, if you're just new, you should be training for more than a year.
I agree.
To get, and you have to sign up a year in advance. However, Ironman has changed now, and there's events open a month before, and you can still jump into an Ironman. So I feel like Ironman's made it more accessible.
It's a super interesting point, for sure.
For anyone to get in there and do it. And they're a business. So I don't think people realize Ironman is a business. Like, they are in there to make money. They are producing more events. There's one announced today, Ironman 70.3 Panama City.
Yeah.
They're just popping up all over the place, and they're not selling out anymore. The days of getting online, like concert tickets, where you had to call in when the band was announced. I think those are the 2 points I take away from it. One is you want them to feel what you feel when you push yourself over the line. And I can completely relate with that. when I come across that finish line and I know that I've done my best, whether PR or not, it's something, I wish I could share with everybody. I get it. And then Ironman just opening up the floodgates and letting everybody in because they want the tattoo and they want to be part of the Ironman community. And I get that. And maybe that's not the appropriate way to go. Maybe as Ironman increases more events, maybe the logistics of it needs to change, like qualifying events or qualifying times or some proof that you've done some training. But I wanted to clarify those 2 points.
At very least, knowing what it's going to entail.
Right. It's not a 5K. It's not a 10K. It's not a half marathon. It's a commitment.
Yeah. It's a commitment. And I think overall, what I take away from all of this is that we all need to do a lot of work at accepting the perspectives of others. Because that's what makes us unique. So you and I can look at that map that's on the wall and see 2 totally different things. And if I don't like what you see, I might attack you for that or give you, a response that maybe you didn't expect. But the fact of the matter is, everybody listening, regardless of what you think, there is no right and there is no wrong when it comes to perspective. It's that person's unique take on whatever it is they're looking at or the experience that they're talking about. And all of this defensiveness and even I think what you were writing is really a reflection of what we need to work on within ourselves.
Right. That's really, you've been saying that at least maybe once every time we talked. I think it just, the bell rung in my brain. But yeah, you gotta be careful. Like, how does the world see you and how do you want to be seen? Because you can say a million things in a million different ways.
But to live your truth, to really be authentic, you got to be okay with people not liking you, right? Mm-hmm. Like those people are going to fall away. So some people may have fallen away and some people may have come to you in this, right? And it's all just alignment.
It is.
Right? So you may have been able to rid a few people from your tribe that weren't supposed to be there anymore, right? There are no mistakes. And I don't think that, hindsight going back and changing any of those words, because I think it was delivered exactly the way it was supposed to. It came out in a moment of emotion. And then what you received was exactly that. A lot of moments of emotion, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So what would be one thing that you would like to clarify, just one thing you want to clarify from that blog post?
Well, yeah, just like I said, the elitist thing really bugged me, but now that you mentioned that, now that you said, I don't know, the past 5 minutes, the reflection piece, I don't know, it sounds childish, but it's what they wanted to say. It's what resonated the most with them. Like I said, I kind of played on every single string, but what the comment, whatever somebody else's comment was, is probably a reflection of their, is insecurity the right word?
Well, I mean, it could be, but it's looking at what the essence of that feeling is, what the deep, deep essence of whatever that emotion is that they were feeling when they posted that. What is that essence? Is it anger? Is it sadness? Is it feeling that they felt that maybe they didn't matter? Whatever the essence was, and for you too, like the essence of that rant, whatever the essence, the very, very essence.
Exactly, yeah.
That's the work.
Totally get what you're saying.
That's the work. So you, my friend, are a guru because you just showed all those people what was unhealed within them, and they...
You are welcome.
Right, and they gave it right back to you.
Absolutely.
Right? And so it's to look at it in that way. It was a beautiful exchange, and I'm glad it's out there. So we'll link to that in the show notes.
You guys put it in such a good way.
And if people want to know more about you, where can they find you on social media and your blog? What is it?
The Instagram is Hafferty.
I love that. Hafferty.
Just my high school nickname because I was, again, an offensive lineman. I was half of it. My last name is Hafferty, so it was kind of Hafferty because I was bigger. And then The blog is actasif.com or .blogspot.com.
All right. Well, we'll link to that.
Yeah. Cool.
So it's late. It's time for bed.
It's time for bed.
All right.
Good luck, Billy, in Cozumel. I know you're ready, bro. I mean, I've been riding, and you tortured me on the run, and you're looking fit. So I can't wait to see and follow you on race day. So good luck in Cozumel.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much.
And dude, you better leave it all out there. You better leave it all out there. Don't you quit on us.
You guys are right.
That's it. Our chat with the one and only Hafferty. What did you guys think? Let us know in the comments on the blog post for this episode or at Yogi Triathlete on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. And if you're just digging the pod all over, please take a few minutes to leave us a review on iTunes, use the Amazon banner ad, and get to Patreon to support the show. These links are all in the show notes. All right, so what's up with Billy now? Okay, the storm has subsided from his Wussification rant. Unless, of course, this show stirs that storm back up. Who knows? But it's all just perspective sharing anyway, right? I mean, that understanding right there is a life changer. How did Billy do in Cozumel? Well, I'm super pumped to say that he qualified for Kona. And because he lives in the real world, he realizes that Kona doesn't come cheap. So he has moved back to the Northeast and taken a job that will allow him to live out his Aloha dreams. And even though this may not have been Billy's original vision, moving back to take a job doesn't mean that he's off his path for finding purpose. It means that he's still on his path. And this is the best part, and he's finding what is helping him out so much is a daily meditation practice. Yeah, Billy. Yogi Triathlete right there. And on top of this, not only does he have Kona on his path, but he also has his eyes set on getting his 200-hour certification to teach yoga this year. So I would say this guy is very much still on the path. And remember that when the path takes a turn, you guys, it doesn't mean we've fallen off. It means we are still on. And it has nothing to do with what it looks like. It has everything to do with your relationship to that change. So we'll catch up with you guys next week with another episode of the YTP. Thank you for all your support and keep riding that high vibe of life.